Hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm one of your lead tutors here at the Writing Center. Today, I'm going to lead you through a little note taking workshop, which is one of the most essential skills that you can develop for your college career. Before we get started, I just want to take a little look at what we're going to be covering today. So, the first thing we're going to do is discuss why we even take notes. And then after that, we're going to move into something that I love debating personally, which is should you take digital notes or should you take physical notes? After that, we're going to cover different methods and supplies you can use for both digital and physical note taking, specifically annotating and mind mapping. And then we're going to wrap up and I'm going to let you go. As I said earlier, note taking is an essential skill for your college career. It helps you succeed in the classroom because of all these different things. The biggest thing is that it helps you focus, right? If you're taking notes, there's this mind to hand connection that helps you remember your notes, which is really important in STEM based fields or where you're doing exams or you just want to recall information. It also helps you become an active listener. I know that there's such a huge temptation to go in class and open your computer and go online shopping. I know. But when you're listening to your professor and you're taking notes, it helps you pick out what you should be listening to. It helps you see what your professor is paying attention to, what you should be paying attention to, really. And finally, it's less distractions. Note taking also allows for deeper comprehension. It's kind of a skill to be able to translate what you hear from your professor or what you read from your books and take them and put them in your own words. Because of that skill, you're going to understand what you are writing. It also helps you organize your thoughts through that. Note taking is also going to help future you. When you study and when you need it, you're going to have the notes to back up your knowledge. And really, the most important part is it would make your professor really happy. Who doesn't want that? I'm just saying. Physical notes, digital notes, they both have their pros and cons. For example, physical note taking is super accessible. All you need to do is grab a paper and a pen and you're ready. Most of us have a notebook. Most of us have a pen. We're in a college. We'll be able to grab it whenever. It also helps with memorization. I mentioned earlier that there's like a mind to hand connection. And because of that, because you're writing your notes, you're going to be able to memorize them better. It also helps you maintain focus. I think that there's something special about writing with your hand and feeling the paper and honing in on that. And finally, there's a motivating result. I am the kind of person who likes to color code my notes. I like to add little doodles, little highlights, and when you see it, it's gonna make you feel good. You're like, I did that. However, physical note taking also is hard, right? For those of us who might have some more physical oriented needs, might hurt your hand to take notes, which is completely valid. You also need a proper storage system if you want to use a notebook, or if you want to use note cards, or if you want to use a binder, it's going to take up some space. Sometimes, for those of us who don't have the best handwriting, it can be hard to decode, especially if you're in a rush and you're writing notes as fast as you can. You're gonna either miss things, or your handwriting's gonna be a little sloppy, or you're writing in shorthand and you're gonna have to look back at it later. Next is that stationery can cost money, especially if you, like me, like to get your mild liners, like to get your stickers, like to get your little journals for each class. That can add up a little bit. And finally, physical notes aren't as easy to share. Yeah, you can take a picture and send it, but it's also just as easy to get a Google Doc and share it with your friends and be able to share that or take notes together. On the other hand, digital notes also have their own pros and cons. Digital notes are faster. Typing on a keyboard is faster than just writing. It's also a lower barrier of entry. If you have a Google Doc, you're able to just get in there, right? There's so many apps and methods that we can use to take digital notes nowadays. It also helps to keep you organized on Google Drive or OneDrive, whatever you use. If you have 10 million folders, you can still make another folder within that folder. Say you have one folder for one class and one folder for another class. Within each of those folders, you can then have a folder for a subject, or a topic you're discussing in class, or a date that you're taking your notes on. However, while taking digital notes, you probably will get distracted. It's really easy to just open up a game of Snake on your computer while you're finished typing a sentence and be like, I'll get back to it. Or you start browsing the internet, reading some articles. I tend to do that. And it's really hard to get back on track once you do that. Tech is also finicky. You have to bring your computer, and if you forget your charger one day, oh my gosh, you're screwed. Or you have to update before you are able to type your notes, or you forget to save, which is really, really such a nightmare. Digital notes, unfortunately, also have you retaining less of your material. So, because you are typing things and you're going so fast, you're not really making that same connection with what you're typing as you would with writing your notes. Overall, though, the real decision is up to you. What's more convenient for you? What will help you best? I do both. If I'm being completely honest, I do both. I like to take physical notes and I like to take digital notes. Sometimes I'll do both for the same class. I'll take a physical notebook and then when I'm done with class, I'll transfer them to digital notes. You might be asking, Alyssa, okay, cool. I know what kind of notes I want to take. How do I do it? There's a few different ways you can. So if you want to take physical notes, obviously the first thing you're going to need is a notebook, paper, some sort of paper, or two notebooks, or three notebooks. You're also mainly going to need pens and pencils. The extras would be your highlighters and your fun stationery. If you want to take digital notes, there's 10 million apps out there, and I'm sure once this is released, there's going to be 10 million more, right? The basic would be Docs or Word, which, if you didn't know, as an NJCU student, you get free access to Microsoft Office, including Microsoft Word. It's really convenient, and you don't have to pay a cent for it. Another few options are GoodNotes, OneNote, and Notion. All of these are online and you get to take notes. Some of them resemble more of a physical notebook transferred online. Notion has 10 million different things you can do, have different boards, and it's really up to you what is convenient for you. However, I would like to say that not all of these are free, right? So work with what works best with you. Now that you have your supplies, you might be asking, okay, how do I actually write my notes? There are so many different methods. I know a lot of people like to do outlining, which is kind of the basic thing you imagine when you imagine taking notes, where you have A, this topic, and underneath it, you have your notes on it. B, this topic, underneath again. Annotating is also an option. Taking Cornell notes is also an option. But there's so much more. And so you choose. We're going to go over these really quickly. The first one here is the Cornell method. This is really good when you're working with definitions or you have key notes about things. So at the top of your page, you're going to have the title. And on the right-hand side of the page, you're going to take your main body notes. You're going to probably have some more longer definitions there, longer ideas there. And then on the left, you're going to have your keywords. So for example, you might be defining the mitochondria, right? The mitochondria would go on your left. And in your notes section, you would include everything about it. Powerhouse of the cell, so on and so forth. As you can tell, I am not a STEM major, so bear with me. Another thing you might want to do is boxing. These are keeping your separate points in different boxes so that you have a more visual look of your notes. And finally is outlining. Here you have A, B, C, and all your notes underneath them. However, we have a closer look at some other styles of note taking. One of my favorites is annotation. Annotation means to add notes to the text you're reading. This is a really useful tool when you're doing close reading. So for English, humanities, but also STEM. And it's super engaging. So, how do I do it? You're going to want a few different things. I use a highlighter and a pen, but really you can even just start with a pen. You can highlight or circle or underline any key points or information. In this case, I am highlighting different observations or details or things about the language. One thing I would like to say is to make sure you don't highlight or underline the entire page. It defeats the purpose. If everything's important and everything's highlighted, nothing's important. Once you highlight, you will write your notes in the margins of the text. I want to make sure that you're writing what you understand. For example, here, I just wrote yum, because guess what? In this paragraph, the author is describing a bunch of different specials from a diner. And I went yum. But some more important things I highlighted were references to military language, the checkered pants, the boots, dishonorable discharge, respectable soldier, hold down the fort. You can't see it here, but I did note that these are all examples of military language. Annotating is really good when you have a text in front of you. I suggest printing it out. On NJCU's campus, we have the library where you can get paper, but importantly, there's the computer lab in the professional studies building that has free pages. Another kind of note taking is mind mapping. This is a really creative format, in my opinion, which helps you organize your thoughts. It lets you take a look at your notes all in one space. This might be good for a lecture or something that's a little bit more open ended. So you're not necessarily taking a text and analyzing it, but you're writing down things as they come. You start with having your central theme in the middle of the page. In our example, I took a mind map for this workshop, actually. So in the center, I wrote note taking. And then from that central idea, you should branch out. You can kind of see where some of these slides came up as I was doing my mind map. One of the slides I did was, why should I take notes? And I branched out there. And then from why should I take notes, I branched out to even more ideas. You focus more, better recall, less distractions. You saw that all in the slide that I was talking about earlier. And then you can go on and branch out as much as you want. Really, what limits you is the space. Here I have digital, physical notes, methods, and you can see kind of where all my inspiration came from. And it starts to look a little bit like how your brain works, actually, a neural network. And everything's connected, and you have a holistic view of everything that you're talking about. Really, what matters though is that you choose what works for you. I like to annotate and I like to mind map. That's why you guys had those examples. Another tutor might suggest outlining, another tutor might suggest the Cornell method. What works for you, what makes sense in your mind, that's what you do. And so that's it. It's easy, I promise. And if you need any more help at the Writing Center, we're here to help you through the summer, through the fall, through the spring. We're here for you to make sure you succeed and you can learn how to study effectively, which includes note taking. So you can reach out to us at the Writing Center at njcu.edu. You can call us by phone or you can call or email our director. We're so excited to see you and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon. Bye!